Hello and welcome to this 11 a.m. .NET session. Uno platforms, your apps everywhere with Martin Zikmund. Take it away, Martin.
Hello everyone. So welcome to my session. It's going to be about cross-platform application development on .NET and about my favorite framework called Uno platform. So let's get right into it. I will just first ease into the topic by introducing cross-platform application development, which is something many companies want to do, and it's something that's not easy to do. So here's the basic space of what you have to do to bring your application to all platforms. And if you go with native application development, you can see you have to target each platform separately, and you have to have four different code bases with four different languages for the business logic and for the UI. So it's a very hard thing to do. You need four different teams of developers, and each of the teams has to be proficient in their specific platform. And it's just a lot of work to do, as well as introducing new features and fixing bugs. You have to do everything 4 times. So that's extremely annoying and extremely expensive to do. So of course, developers, we are efficient creatures, so we wanted to improve upon that and to bring more efficient solutions. And the first step next is to unify the business logic of our application into one single language. So for us .NET developers, the ideal solution is to have C# as the shared business logic language. So if we use C# as business logic language, we can use UWP for Windows, we can use Xamarin for iOS and Android, and we can use Blazor for the web. And in this case, we have unified the business logic, but we have still 4 different layers of UI languages. So on Windows, we have to use XAML, on Android, XAML, on iOS, we have to use Swift UI, and on the web, we have to use HTML and JavaScript and CSS. So it's still a lot of code application, it's still a lot of work on top of the business logic itself. So can we go further? The next step is Xamarin Forms, or MAUI, as it's going to be called in the future. So this is a framework provided by Microsoft directly, and they actually unified not only the business logic to C#, but also the UI layer using XAML. And XAML is a markup language based on XML, and it's basically a new version of XAML, which came from WPF, so that's a Windows Presentation Foundation. Microsoft has, originally it was Xamarin, which has taken this language, edited it a little bit, and brought it into Xamarin Forms. The reason they had to kind of adjust the language is that Xamarin was originally a separate entity from Microsoft, and they wanted to avoid some copyright infringements. So they introduced a kind of custom XAML dialect, which has custom naming conventions, like instead of with, you have with request, instead of background, you have background color, and so on. So it's a simplified version of XAML language, but it also has some drawbacks, which, for example, you don't have access to min with and max with. Here you have just with request and max with requests, I think. So there are some limitations and adjustments that you have to make when you're bringing a Windows application to Xamarin Forms, because the UI is not one-to-one. There are some adjustments that you have to make and have to learn if you are a Windows developer coming to Xamarin Forms. In addition, the situation in Xamarin Forms was always that the application looked kind of different on each operating system. So here you have an example that on iOS, the application looks like an iOS application. On Android, it looks like an Android application, and on Windows, like a Windows application, which is kind of nice because our users don't have to adjust for specific UI language of the application. But it's also a limitation in case you want to bring your company branding into your app, because you have to do a lot of custom adjustments and make sure that the application really does look good on each of the systems. And Xamarin Forms team has already noticed this problem, and they actually introduced something called Xamarin Forms Shell or material design. And this approach allows you to actually make the application look the same on each of the operating systems, which is a great improvement. But the problem is that they kind of forgot about Windows. So the support for Windows was quite late and behind the schedule. And hopefully it's going to improve with MAUI, but it's kind of clear that Xamarin Forms is focusing on the mobile platforms, which is Android and iOS first. So the situation is now much better. We can see that we have shared business logic, we have shared UI, but in the process, we kind of lost the fourth platform, which is the web. And we cannot easily target the web using Xamarin Forms. And that's a big loss because there is a lot of web users, and even on mobile devices, people are usually and often using mobile browser to reach applications. So what can we do to improve upon this even more? And now we finally reach UNO platform, which is an open source solution. It's a cross-platform application development framework provided by a company called Inventive, which was then open sourced and is now a separate entity called UNO platform. It's based on the same languages, C# and XAML, as Xamarin Forms, but the difference here is that XAML in this case is the full XAML that we know from WPF, or actually UWP, Universal Windows Platform, and WinUI. So all the conventions that you know and love from Windows are available here. And all the features of XAML are also available here. You can then create fully pixel perfect UI design and have a single code base that just runs and compiles on all targets, including Windows, iOS, Android, macOS, macOS Catalyst, which is a version of Mac applications that come from iPad, and also on the web using WebAssembly, and also on Linux, which is pretty cool. So it's a complete coverage of all platforms you could ever want to target. The promise of UNO platforms is that you don't have to think about how each platform works, and you just write a Windows application and it runs everywhere. And they are actually delivering on this promise, and I will show you how they do it. So here is a simple diagram of how UNO platform works. On Windows, which is the first column, you can see that there is a WinUI library, which is provided by Microsoft. It's a native Windows UI library by which using which you develop your applications. So on Windows, there is no UNO platform layer there. On the other targets, which is web, iOS, macOS, Android, and Linux, there is UNO platform on the same level as WinUI on Windows. So UNO platform provides the same API structure and interfaces that allow you to build those applications on the other targets. And the way they do it is that they use the same namespaces as WinUI. So when you have on Windows a Microsoft UI XAML controls button, you can find the same control on UNO platform in the exact same namespace with the exact same API surface. So you can just write your Windows application and then compile it against UNO platform instead of WinUI. And for the UI layer, UNO platform uses native rendering capabilities of each of the targets. So in case of Windows, as I said, there is no UNO there. So on Windows, it's rendered using Windows UI. But on iOS, it's using UIKit. On macOS, it's using AppKit. On Android, it's using Android Views. On the web, it's using HTML and CSS. And on Linux, it's using Skia. But the great thing is that, of course, you don't have to think about this. UNO platform completely shields you away from these specifics. And you just write a Windows application and don't care about how it gets rendered. It just is. So without further ado, let's go and see how UNO platform looks in action. So I will close down this and I will open Visual Studio as our favorite IDE for .NET development. And I'll just hide this for now. And if it ever loads, hopefully it does, I will first show you how to install UNO platform into your Visual Studio. So let's go here into extensions and click Manage Extensions. And in this area, we can pick this online tab and search for UNO platform. Search, it should show me as a first result the UNO platform solution templates. You can just install this as a free extension into Visual Studio, and what it does is that it brings a set of useful templates. Oh, sorry. Now we are here. So it brings a set of useful templates into your Create New Project dialog. So if I pick UNO platform here, you can see there is a multi-platform application based on Xamarin, and there is also a multi-platform library. This one is mostly suited for library authors. So if you were building a library for UNO platform, you would pick this one. But in our case, I will pick multi-platform application. I will put it somewhere less deep because of long path issues in Windows, just to make sure. And I will call it Hello UNO. Okay, let's create it. And this will create the whole solution because UNO platform targets a lot of platforms. It takes a bit of time to actually create all the projects. But now we're done, and I can show you what got created. So there is a shared project, which is the place where you will spend most of your time. It actually should contain all your application logic, all your UI, and all your assets. But there's a lot of other projects inside of this platforms folder, and these are the platform-specific project heads, which are actually used to run the application on different targets. So, for example, here is Android, iOS, macOS, GTK for Linux. There is Tizen. There is WPF for older versions of Windows. There is UWP for Windows 10 and 11, and there is also WebAssembly for the web. So let's see just quickly what got created. I will launch this on Windows, which is the default platform on which you will probably create your application and debug things, because it's the native one, so it's the fastest for the developer loop. So I will run it, and you can see it's a simple Hello World application, nothing too special, nothing too groundbreaking. But let's improve upon this application a little bit. I will open XAML of the application here, and I will actually do some edits right here live while the application is running. So I will switch the root element to stack panel, which is a vertical orientation panel. So it stacks controls on top of each other. And now let's put here a slider, which is a control that allows you to pick a value by sliding a thumb. I will add some padding just to make it more visible. Okay, so this is a slider. And I will call this slider a slider, which is a very inventive name. And I will add a text block, which will be data bound to this slider. So I will use data binding to element name slider with path value. So this text block will display the value, the current value of the slider. And as you can see, that's the case. I'll just make it a little bit more bigger so it's more visible. Okay, so now let's see. if I slide the slider, you can see the value of the text block below it is changing properly. So that's pretty nice, I think. However, this is just a simple Windows application, so nothing too special, nothing to call home about. But let's switch to a different target, for example, Android. So I will launch the same application on Android, which will take a while before it's built. So I will just fill the time by showing you what the Android and actually the other target projects contain. So you can see it's a very simple structure. It's just a main class, main activity, and it just does actually does nothing. It just bootstraps the UNO platform functionality, and all the magic and logic of the application stays in the shared project. So each of these projects for the specific platforms are basically just bootstrapping code and some application manifest usually, and nothing too special. You don't have to look into these projects too often. All right, so the application should be starting, and I have the Android emulator running here. And as you can see, we have the exact same UI now running on Android. And the functionality of the application is also the same. So as I'm sliding the slider, the value is properly changing, and it all works exactly the same. And if I rotate the display, you can see that the layouting also properly works. So it really layouts the application and gives you a proper look as it should on any other Android application. And one more cool thing is that when you switch here to dark theme on Android, the application also automatically switches to dark theme. And that's thanks to the fact that it's using the same XAML syntax and XAML functionalities from Windows. So all the features, including dark theme, are supported out of the box. So that's pretty nice, I think. Okay, so that was Android. I cannot show you iOS and macOS because I would have to be on a Mac for this, and I would have to just trust me that it works. But if you have a Mac, you can just connect your Windows Visual Studio to that Mac and even debug applications remotely. That's also possible. And most recently, Xamarin has allowed developing iOS applications on Windows and actually building those applications on Windows. So you can connect your iPhone directly to Windows and debug on it. So that's also possible. But you know, even if you did not have macOS, you wouldn't be able to publish iOS applications. So there is this problem that macOS is always needed for Apple-related platforms development. All right, so let's go forward. I will switch to this GTK project. And GTK is actually another cross-platform application development framework that's targeting Linux and macOS. So you can actually take this application, this UNO GTK application, and run it on Linux, and it will work exactly the same as on Windows. So that's just a feature that we provide, and it allows for new scenarios like bringing your Windows applications to Linux, which was not previously easily possible. I will skip WPF, that's nothing too special, it's just support for Windows 7 and earlier. And I will go directly here to WebAssembly. Let me start this. And I will just show you what it contains. It's a simple project which bootstraps UNO platform here, and it contains some basic application manifest for naming your application and giving it some splash screen color and image. And apart from that, nothing too special. And the application is already launched here. So I will just show you again how it was launching. Let me go to the network tab here and F5. You can see there's a splash screen and the application gets launched. And if you check the network tab here, let me hide this. So you can see there is a lot of familiar files being loaded into the browser. For example, system.net, there is system.io compression, there is system diagnostics, system console, and so on. All these are basically DLL files which are loaded into the browser and are then executed inside of the browser. So all that's happening here is running on the client. There is no communication with the server. There is nothing special going on. And if I slide the slider, you can see that the functionality remains the same. And if I actually clear this with this button, you can see that no further network requests are happening. It's all running on the client. And this works not only in desktop browser, it works on a phone, it works on a fridge, it works everywhere a browser works, which has support for WebAssembly. Okay, and again, as I was showing before, you can go to settings, switch appearance to dark, and the application also changes to dark theme. So your web application can follow the theming that the user has set up for the browser or for the system. Maybe one more thing that I would like to show you here is how the UI is rendered. So if I go here and select something, you can see that this is a plain old HTML and CSS code. And the great thing is that you don't have to care. You don't have to write that code yourself. It's done for you automatically by UNO platform. So you just write XAML code and it gets rendered as HTML in the browser. All right, so that's it. That would be for the basic demonstration of how UNO platform works. And let's go back to the slides to show you some more advanced scenarios. All right, so what UNO platform provides to you is a wide range of controls and APIs, all supporting multiple themes. That's the light theme, dark theme, and a high contrast theme, which is used for accessibility scenarios. So you can make your application work great even for visually impaired users. There is full support for control templating and styling. So you're not bound to the look of Windows buttons or Windows sliders. You can fully customize the look of every single control in UNO platform and make it look like something completely else. UNO platform also supports animations and visual state triggers. And the great thing there is that you can even create adaptive triggers, which allow you to make your application look great on different screen sizes and dimensions. So your application can change layout completely when it's running on the phone or when it's running on a huge plasma TV, for example. UNO platform is based on XAML, so it has full support for data binding, and that's including the compiled binding syntax that's in UWP. So it's no longer using reflection to get those data bindings, but it's actually fully compiled. So at runtime, there is no performance cost. Also, you can use all the shapes and brushes, for example, as compared to Xamarin Forms, where you have a background color and you can only set color as a background of an element. Here you can set an image, you can set a gradient, you can set basically anything as a background. Good important point here. I think that is changing with MAUI, that they are also bringing this functionality to Xamarin Forms / MAUI as well. Of course, I've been talking a lot about cross-platform, but if you want to do something specific for a specific platform, you can still do that as well. There is a syntax called conditional XAML, where you can write specific XAML for specific platforms And those controls and UI will show up only where you want it to show up. So for example, if you have your favorite mapping control on Android, you can bring it into your XAML and let it display only on Android. Finally, there is a feature of native controls embedding, so you can even bring some native controls like advertising controls into your applications. That's fully supported as well. However, the main part of your application will probably be based on WinUI controls, which are built into UNO platform, and you can use them pretty easily. And we're actually cooperating with Microsoft to bring WinUI controls from which are being created constantly to UNO platform as they are released. So we have support for many advanced controls like navigation view with hierarchy, for example, tree view for showing tree structures, or for example, this pips pager, which allows you to page through content easily and so on. All these controls are supported and you can just use them as you would in a Windows application. However, as I mentioned, styling applications is an important task, and UNO platform offers you 3 different styles of application built in. So you can make your application look like a Windows application, that's the default. However, if you want the application to look more like an Android application, there is Material UI, and for iOS fans, there is Cupertino design. So you can pick and choose and even mix up between multiple versions to make your application look exactly as you want. And to showcase that, I will go here to this gallery application. Let me send the link to the chat so you can test it on your PC or mobile phone. So, let me do it like this. Okay. Right, so link is in the chat. And this application, if I find it, all right, here it is. So this application allows you to take a look at most of the components and APIs that are provided by UNO platform. So for each of the controls, you can switch between Material, Fluent, and Cupertino styles, and you can test how it works and feels like. So for example, Material design, you can see when I click, there is this ripple effect on the button, which you know from Android. And for Cupertino, the control is just a text instead of being a button. And there is a lot of controls to try out. So you can go through these and see what the platform is providing you out of the box. And the nice thing is maybe that, yeah, we can show it here. There is this acrylic feature, which allows you to create a nice blurred background effect. And actually on macOS, you can use this acrylic brush to create blur of what's behind the application window. So you can have a partially see-through application on macOS. All right, so you can try this application on your phone or on your desktop browser, or you can also download it from the iOS and Android stores. So it's normally available there, so you can download it and install it on your device. Okay, let's go next to the other aspect that UNO platform provides. And that's the fact that it's not only about the UI layer. UNO platform actually is a mirror of all the features that Windows provides. So that it doesn't contain only the UI, but also other things like sensors and geolocation and application data for storing user settings and so on. So all these features which are shown in this image are available in UNO platform in a cross-platform manner. And I actually have an example here, which you can again try out on your devices, and I will post the link here. Let me do this. So it's in the chat. So this sample application I used for my presentation on UnoConf 2020, but it's still fully functional and can show you many interesting things that Uno platform provides. For example, this network information API, which allows you to check if your application is connected and even observe the state of connectivity. So if I click observe connectivity and click on this check button, I can see that I'm fully connected. But if I now simulate being disconnected, you can see that the image has switched immediately to offline. And this is super simple to implement in your application. You just use Network Information API, which you would find on Windows, and it just works on all platforms. You don't have to care about how specific platforms do it. You just use Windows API and it works everywhere. And the same thing for GPS. So if I click get geoposition, you can see that I get my GPS coordinates. Don't write this down anywhere, but this is how it works. You can test it on your phone as well. And interestingly, I'm on a desktop PC, but it still does kind of pick up the GPS coordinates. On your phone, you can test the accelerometer, which is showing you the current state of the orientation of the device. So you can develop maybe some mobile game, which allows you to navigate some ball through a maze, for example. But also you can use it to send feedback. For example, if your application has a feedback feature, your users can shake the device to bring up the form to send feedback. There is also this vibration sample, which you can use when you click this button, your phone should vibrate. Again, something I cannot really show here on this desktop PC, but it does work. And finally, there is a speech recognizer, which is a very preview feature, but I can try if it will work this day. Hello, everyone. All right, so this is a speech recognizer that's running in the browser using the same APIs as on Windows. So you don't have to learn anything, you just use Windows APIs and it gives you the full functionality of speech recognizer. And there's my favorite sample, which unfortunately I cannot easily show you here because I don't have my digital piano here, but MIDI is a shorthand for musical instrument device interface. And it allows you to connect musical instruments to your device, be it a Windows PC or an Android tablet, iOS tablet, whatever. And you can then play musical notes on that device using this application and also display notes from that musical device on the PC. So if I were connected, I would be able to actually play notes on a digital piano. Because I am not able to do that right now, I will send you a link which you can see. And there is a video of this feature in action. So that's just a thing that you can watch on your free time then. But it's pretty powerful because it means that you actually have an application that's running inside of the browser and is reaching out to device APIs to communicate with USB device that's connected and actually send and receive messages from it, which is kind of mind-blowing to me because it's just a browser, but it's doing these heavy lifting for us. And you don't have to care because you're just writing a Windows application and it runs everywhere. So that's for some non-UI features. And I will show you a few more examples here. Let me switch to here and I will show you Windows Calculator, which is a very nice application that everyone has on their PC. And this is actually an open source application which Microsoft has published and it's available on GitHub. So here, calculator. And you can see it's available for everyone to actually contribute to and provide feedback. And as Microsoft has open sourced this, the UNO platform team decided to actually port this application to UNO platform. Because it's based on C# and XAML, it was kind of an easy task. So you can now use the Windows calculator inside of the browser or on your mobile device, on iOS, on Android. You can download it from the store. And when it loads, you can see it's basically the same application. I will just switch to light theme because we seen the application light theme. So it's basically the same application. Actually, it's an older version of the UI because we haven't updated it for Windows 11 yet. But the UI is basically the same. It provides the same features like changing layout for different screen sizes. And it also has all the features like weight conversions. So if I do 500 kilograms, you can see it's 0.12 elephants. So that's pretty cool, I think, because it gives you all the features which would expect from a Windows calculator inside of a browser. And actually, if you have an iPad, I think it's the best calculator application for iPad, at least from the free applications, it's probably the best. Okay, so that's calculator. Let me see NuGet. You probably know NuGet because if you're a .NET developer, you use NuGet every day. And so on the NuGet, you can search for various packages for .NET applications. And the cool thing is that now UNO platform is kind of integrated into NuGet because there is this NuGet package explorer. And when you click it, it actually leads you to a UNO platform application, which allows you to open the NuGet package in the browser and investigate the contents of it. So you can see that this specific library has just 2 script files, which are being displayed here. Let's maybe pick something more complex. So I will actually open UNO platform itself. So UNO UI, open NuGet package explorer, let it load. This one is a big one because it's a lot of megabytes for multiple different platforms. Let's wait for it to load. Actually, in the meantime, I'll answer this question. Oh, right. I see that Rob Miles has a session regarding MIDI devices later today, so that's something definitely worth looking into.
Yeah. I heard you said as well earlier about the manifest files for each of the different applications. So can you edit, say, the Android manifest file if you need certain permissions? Say, like, if you're upgrading the app with an API upgrade, then you need to change the manifest for any of the changes that have been made there. You can just edit the manifest as normal. Okay.
Yeah, like all of that is available in those platform-specific projects. So you can see the manifest is there. And for iOS, there is info plist, and all these features are there. And the ultimate goal of UNO platform is to be able to actually avoid these as well by just providing you the Windows manifest and translating those capabilities from Windows to those specific platform capabilities. But that's not yet implemented. So for these specific tasks, you should go into the platform-specific project heads.
Yeah.
Right. So let's go back. Oh, okay. So the library has already been processed. So you can see now the structure of the NuGet package, and you can go through all the files there and actually see some attributes for assemblies, some details, sources. So there's a lot of information that you can get right in the browser, and you can actually open your local NuGet package and let the application analyze it and show you the contents. So that's pretty nice and very useful for developers actually when you're on the go and you don't have any tool installed to analyze NuGet packages, for example. All right. So let's go back to the presentation, and I will show you a few more things regarding our partners and cooperations, because UNO platform has friendly relationships with many different library authors. For example, Windows Community Toolkit. You are able to actually use most of Windows Community Toolkit controls inside of UNO platform. For example, data grid and this progress ring and so on. So there is a NuGet package called UNO Microsoft Toolkit. Actually, a set of NuGet packages, and each of them providing a part of those controls to UNO platform applications. Same thing with Syncfusion, which has published its first set of controls for UNO platform. So you can now build charting applications in UNO platform quite easily. And here is an example of how it looks inside of the browser. And Infragistics has also published a version of their controls toolkit inside of UNO. And I have an example here of how it looks when you develop a charting application showing colors inside of the browser. So this basically shows you color levels for specific pixels on the image. Right, and finally, our great relationship with SkiaSharp, which is a provider of 2D graphics rendering engine. And it's basically based on Skia, which is provided by Google, and SkiaSharp is a C# version of that library. And thanks to UNO, you can now run SkiaSharp inside of the browser, full with hardware accelerated rendering. So in case you want to build a game that has UI built in UNO platform and the actual rendering is done on the hardware, you can use SkiaSharp to do that. So for the roadmap, we are planning to bring day 0 support for WinUI 3.0, which was actually published in some form, but we want to bring more support for new features. So there's going to be a 3.1 published soon. So we're going to bring new controls that will be added in the time. And also we are supporting WinUI 2.7 and newer. We are planning to add Visual Studio Code support, which is something we've been asked a lot, especially by web developers, to be able to actually build UNO platform applications without installing Visual Studio at full. And in general, bringing more tools and more tooling and more utilities to ease the development of cross-platform applications. And for me specifically, my favorite feature that is coming is keyboard navigation. So that will allow you to build a fully fledged application that can be controlled with keyboard shortcuts, even inside of the browser, even on an Android or iOS tablet. So that's going to be pretty cool. And it will make those applications actually fully business line capable. So let's finish up with some jokes. Here is an example of how far you can take UNO platform, where you can actually have a Linux instance running on Windows using a Windows subsystem for Linux. And you can open Microsoft Edge on that Linux instance and open UNO platform calculator on that. So that's basically a fully Inception-like scenario that you can achieve. It really does run anywhere. So this is UNO platform calculator running inside of the browser on a Tesla. And final thing I want to show you here is this playground application. I will again post the link so you can try it on your side. Okay, so this playground application allows you to try out UNO platform inside of your browser without installing anything. So I will just show you quickly how it works. So here is the playground. And on the left side, you have a full XAML editor. And on the right side is the rendered version of what you wrote. So if I do a button here and call it So now you can see the button has showed up and it's fully functional. And you can even provide some data binding data here as a JSON that you can then display inside of the application here. And there is a lot of snippets. So for example, for list view, you can see how lists work in UNO platform, or number box for inputting numbers, and so on. So you can try all this in the browser without installing anything, without committing to installing anything. And when you actually decide that you like it, you can install it as the extension to Visual Studio. Right, that's it from me. I have one small homework for you. So I encourage you to try out to create an application with UNO platform. All the information is available on the website or on this link, which I will again post in the chat. And we definitely welcome any feedback and even contributions. And if you want to contribute to UNO platform, I wrote a small guide to do that. So it's a 3-part blog post with some details of how I did my first pull request to UNO platform and what you actually need to know to get started. Finally, on November 30th, there is UNOConf conference, which is online for free. So you can join that to see what's the future like and what's coming in the near months. And it's going to be very exciting. So I definitely encourage you to join that because it's going to be a lot of fun. All right, that's it from me. I have a special bonus for you. If you fill out this form, I will again post the link, you can win one of the free courses on UNO platform on Udemy. So that's just a bonus that I was provided by UNO platform for you. And I will post all the links to the chat before we're over. Okay, so here is this link. And here is the link to how you build your first UNO platform application. And here is the link to the contribution guide. So that's it from me. And I thank you for your attention, and feel free to ask any questions that you want, and I will try to answer them right here or even later on Twitter, anywhere you want. So thank you very much.
Yep, thanks Martin for a really interesting look there at UNO cross-platform development. Thanks for everyone for attending. As you may know, we have a Discord channel that Martin's been posting the links in. So please visit there, leave any questions you've got. I'm going to post a feedback form in there as well for the session. Later on in the day, there'll be feedback for the entire event. But yeah, thank you so much, Martin. Honestly, really interesting, really good. Thank you very much.
No problem.